here and check the properties for person, and you go to the agent tab, what you'll see is there's a little thing here that says on message received, and it also says forward message to state chart. You can actually specify it in more detail and on message received, but this provides you a sort of easy way. If it's handled by only one state chart, you can simply say forward any message to here. If you want to be more specific, you have multiple state charts, you can check what the message is up here and route it accordingly. So you can send an HIV message to an HIV state chart, a TV message to a TV state chart, and a message involving changing marital status to a marital status state chart. Yes?
So you can have multiple state charts and then multiple messages.
Yes.
Can they cross? You say.
Yes, you could have them cross.
This person has a cold and they have HIV, so.
Yes. Yeah, so in general, there's going to be, there's often going to be some interaction. The reason I mention HIV and TB is because, as some people in the room here may know, HIV worldwide is one of the foremost causes of opportunistic TB infections because it weakens the immune system so much. So you may get a situation where your presence in a certain state, say with respect to HIV, for example, later stage HIV or AIDS, may greatly enhance your risk of infection from TB, and so you'd have some interaction there. The probability of infection given exposure to TB is much higher if you're in certain states of the HIV state chart. But moreover, you could have a situation where the messages from one thing are additionally processed by other state charts. To have it handled by two state charts simultaneously is actually something which could be done here. You could route the message first to one state chart and then to another state chart, for example. Generally speaking, you're not going to have that occurring. I haven't seen that in an actual model. It's theoretically possible. Great question. Any other questions? Yes? Well, okay, so I have not spent time testing the limits, but I believe it's essentially an arbitrary upper limit. So for all intents and purposes, you can view it as limitless. Knowing something about the underlying software infrastructure on which this is built, I'd be surprised if it's less than 1,000 state charts per agent. It would have to be a pretty big model to use that many state charts, right? But I think you can view it as essentially limitless. I want to distinguish this from the situation with subscripts in stock and flow modeling. If you use something like VenSim, I think VenSim's upper limit on the number of subscripts that you can use, which would be a way of sort of distinguishing aspects of heterogeneity, would be something on the order of 9 to 12. It's right in there. And I've run up against that limit before with mixing matrices in infectious disease models. There you're dealing with a much smaller number. And indeed, that reflects the fact that the scaling is totally different. You add a new state chart, it's a very modest impact on the running time of the model. You add a new subscript to a system dynamics model that has to be subscripted across the population, has a huge impact, on the running time. I want to draw a contrast, though. If you were to double the population size, that has no impact on a stock and flow model running time. It doesn't matter if you're simulating 1 billion people or 1,000 people. It's just numbers to add, differential equations that are being solved. Here, doubling the population size will at least double the running time of the model. Modulo issues with concurrent processing and so on. You actually may get superlinear scaling, so it may more than double it in some cases if you have very dense networks or what have you. So system dynamics, classic stock and flow models, and agent-based models have very different scaling behavior. Scaling behavior that's different, that scales with respect to different criteria. On the one side, population size for agent-based models is a really big factor that determines performance. for stock and flow models, the heterogeneity you represent is a really big factor. Something that's almost free for one of them comes at great cost for the other, in short. Okay? Important principle. Sorry? Modular? What I mean by that is that it's separate, and it's something which can be added and deleted in a fashion that doesn't disturb all the other pieces. It is encapsulated in a way such that it isn't tightly coupled with respect to the other pieces. Okay. Okay, so we've seen receiving a message. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to get some hands-on experience in adding messaging into one of our models. So I had asked you, well, we had previously built up in class